Welcome to Dance Fit Biz Builders. I'm Orit, dancer, instructor, and proud owner of a thriving belly dance fitness business. And in this podcast, I'm giving it to you straight, sharing what it takes to kickstart and grow your dance and fitness business for the success you deserve. Whether you're a seasoned instructor, a passionate performer, or dreaming of turning your love for dance and fitness into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Lace up those sneakers and pull on those dance shoes and get ready for truth smacks, tips, and inspiration. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to Dance Fit Biz Builders. I'm Orit and this is episode 54. And I've got a fantastic guest today. You're going to love her. Her name is Angel Bellydance. I'm sure all of you have heard about her. Welcome, Angel. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor.
Oh, absolutely. And we want to know all about you and your business, how you started. Yeah. But before we get started with that, we want to know how you got started in dance or fitness. And did you do it growing up?
I sure did. It's funny because it was, first of all, excuse my scratchy throat. I'm dealing with some allergies. I did dance growing up. I was never into fitness. I love taking fitness classes whenever I can, whenever I have the time. Of course, time is not an option now. But growing up, yes. And it wasn't like a plan. It wasn't anything that happened to me in the moment where I said, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be a dancer. I know it sounds really corny, but from before I can remember, I always knew that's what I was going to do. There was no option. There was no discussion. Of course, my mother didn't want me to be a dancer. She wanted me to work in corporate or be a pharmacist. So that was always kind of an argument, but it was no deal for me. It was always going to be dance. Always, from before I even took dance classes as a child. I always knew I was going to be a dancer.
Cool. And what classes did you take?
Excuse me. I started off with jazz. That's all I knew because it's what I saw on television. If you remember, you and I go way back. So I was an 80s child and we didn't have internet. We didn't have TikTok. We didn't have any of that. In my household, there were 3 channels: ABC, NBC, CBS. That was it. If you were lucky and you had good antennas, maybe you got PBS, I think it was. So my options to see dance were extremely limited. And it wasn't until much later that MTV, when I would go visit my father, he would have MTV and VH1, and that was even later. So I got to see more. So to me, dance was very commercialized. I never really got to experience classical style dance until I became more involved with commercial dance. So I remember a great example was when that amazing movie, we all know it, Flashdance.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on the big screen. And it was like, to me, that was kind of like, okay, what do I need? I was like taking notes. What I needed to do, how I needed to dress and whatnot. That was my, one of my very few experiences to see dance on other people. And every great once in a while as a treat, because I grew up in New York. So if I brought home good grades, and the first through third grade, I brought home fairly good grades. If I had good grades, my mother would once a year take me to see a Broadway show. And that was huge. So I got to see dance on Broadway a few times.
Awesome. And so what's cool is that the commercial dance led you to classical dance.
Yes. And that was kind of forced because finally, when my mother realized, okay, she's taking dance seriously, let me get her into a serious program, because I started off with very, very, very recreational classes. Well, you're from New York. You probably remember Lehman College.
Yeah.
So my mom would take me to Lehman College, where the college, I believe they were dance majors. were teaching Saturday classes to children, and that's where I started. And boy, I took that seriously. That 1 hour a week was like my highlight. That was my whole life revolved around that 1 hour. And I would take every lesson, bring it home and practice. And later when she realized I was taking it seriously, she later enrolled me in a competition studio without her even realizing it was a competition studio. And I started off in the recreational classes. And after a couple of years, the owner approached my mother and said, your daughter has some potential here, and we would really like to start her in our competition program. And I was like, okay, cool. I knew nothing about it. I was like, whatever my teacher said, because whatever my teacher said, that's what I did. And she then said I had to take classical ballet. And I was like, no. No. And I was like, I don't want to take ballet. And she's like, oh, honey, if you're going to compete, you have to take ballet. But what was funny was the moment I started ballet, I loved it.
Cool.
But then again, it depended on who my teacher was as I got older.
Sure. What did you love about ballet?
Kind of subconsciously, I started to realize the benefit that I was getting from it and how it was spilling over into my commercial style dance.
Nice.
My leaps were higher. My turns were stronger. My releve was higher. I understood my center more. My flexibility became stronger. And then I really took it seriously.
Nice. And so did you compete? And one and two, did you end up becoming a professional dancer?
I did compete. I was terrible at first.
Hey?
I was terrible at first. And I did end up becoming a professional dancer. I mean, that's all Angel knows. That's all Angel does. I've never worked in anything else. But yeah, when I first started competing, it wasn't even about winning. Honest to God. It wasn't. I didn't care about winning. You know what I cared about? I cared about impressing my instructor. Like I said, she was, to me, whatever my teacher said went. I was more concerned about her feedback when I got off the stage. And it wasn't until probably my second year competing that she kept getting on. I didn't know how to smile on stage. I didn't know how to smile. And she would get on to me about smiling. And I said, okay, I got to practice smiling. And I had a very small bedroom. Very small. There was no room to practice. And there was no really decent room in my home to practice my solo full out. So I said, well, I'm just going to practice my smiling. And I would play the music in my room and I would mark the dance. I believe a lot in marking. You took one of my lecture workshops recently. We talked about how important marking can be and effective it can be. And I would mark and smile. And I would just practice the smile. I mean, who knows? Maybe I had a plastered smile on my face. I don't know. But I went to the next competition and I won first place in my category. Completely unexpected. That was my first true realization that I don't want to say practice makes perfect. Practice makes better.
Yep. Awesome.
And then it led into the professional side of dance.
I'm just curious about the smiling, because usually smiling, there's joy behind it. Were you not feeling joy? What was it?
No, I was nervous. I was very nervous, but it was something I knew I had to do. Uh-huh. I knew I had to do it. Like I said earlier in today's interview, I knew I was going to dance from before I had a memory. So I know it sounds really corny, but it's always just kind of been this is what you were put here to do.
Yeah.
Don't disappoint the world. Don't disappoint the universe. This is what you are supposed to do. So get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew that too. Well, I kept on telling everybody I'm going to be a dancer when I grow up, since I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
There's no discussion about it. There's no, well, what if you want to? No.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen. This is what.
Yeah. Now we get to who you are now. So you've done competitions, you've danced professionally, right? In commercial dance. And now
Yes.
you're doing belly dance, reggaeton, Latin dance, all this mix. How did you get here? Talk to us.
Again, it sounds kind of corny, but I think the universe kind of throws us into certain times and places, the right people, the right time, and then things just fall into place. To kind of sum it up in a nutshell, because that would be a life story, right? Because everything that you see in my dance, in my movements, or maybe my business strategies, anything that you see in my dance, is personal. It's my personal life. My life is kind of an open book, and every movement that you see has something to do with my personal life. So not that I believe this. I'm just saying, and it could be true. They say you don't need a college degree for your trade. You don't need a college. It's a ripoff. I'm not saying that's true or it's not. I don't know. But back then I knew that for what I wanted to do for a living, I knew it was BS.
Okay.
I knew it was. I knew in my heart it was BS. It was my mother had all. She was looking out for my best interest, and I appreciate her for that a million times over. But to her, it was so important that I went to college. I was like, okay, well, I'm majoring, and I majored in dance pedagogy. But halfway through it, I was like, this is such BS. I don't need this for what I want to do, and I'm wasting my prime years.
Interesting.
I really felt I was wasting, and I got really good education the time I was there. But anyways, I went to Puerto Rico to stay with my grandmother, and I figured I'm just going to audition, because back then the tourism was very different. And the entertainment industry back then was very different. So we're talking about now the mid 90s. And I auditioned for a show. It was one of these shows that they have at the hotels that are like every night. And it's for tourism, for
like dinner shows.
And excursions that were coming off the cruise ship. And I auditioned and I got the job. And although I am Puerto Rican and I did grow up in a Puerto Rican family very involved in our culture, I did not study as a child. I did not study Latin dance. So I was kind of ticked off.
Okay.
Because if you want to be a professional dancer in Puerto Rico, you better know how to dance the Latin dance style, because that's where the money is. It's in the tourism. And when people travel to another region of the world, they want to see that culture. So I was stiff as a board. I was the ballet jazz dancer with no hips, no spicy movement whatsoever. And so, I almost didn't get to keep that job because of that flaw that I had, but they worked with me. They worked with me really hard. And then that show ended up completely closing. They closed down the hotel to remodel it. And so I ended up auditioning for another show. And that show was even stronger in Latin dance. So I kind of felt that the first show for my life plan, now that I look back, was kind of a preparation, because I was with that first show for, I want to say, a year and a half. And then it prepared me for the next show. And that was even tougher. I obviously feel that my ballet and jazz and hip hop upbringing was helpful, but then I was learning more. And then they were even throwing in flamenco dance as well. And if you would have told me even back then in my 20s that I was going to be a belly dancer, I would have been disappointed. Not because there's anything wrong with belly dance, because in my 20-something-year-old brain back then, that was not part of my plan. I think in my 20s, I didn't have a plan. I think I was just trying to get my rent paid. I was just trying to get my rent paid. I just, wanted to get my car paid. That's what it was for me. I wasn't thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And later, much later, after moving back and forth between Puerto Rico and New York and back to Puerto Rico and, back to the States, I did try to study as many different types of dancing as I could, belly dance being one of them, because I wanted to be diverse in everything. And one day I had a friend who needed a substitute for one of her belly dance shows. I think she was sick or she couldn't make it or something. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll fill in. And just kind of one thing led to another. And I just kept getting calls back for belly dance shows. And by this time I was like, oh, wait, this is nice. I can rehearse on my own time. I don't have to report to rehearsal when the producers are telling me to. I can wear the costumes I want. I can choose the music I want. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this creative freedom. And I went that route because I liked I liked the dance, and it was convenient for me at that time in my life. Yeah. But the more I became involved in it, the more I loved it, and more and more and more. It just kind of snowballed. And with the Latin part of it, the Latin fusion, that was also kind of, I've told this story before, and a lot of people have told me that they've become inspired by this story. But I got to a point in my career, as I think many dancers get to, or maybe it was a point in my life, I don't know, where I just didn't care what people thought. I just didn't care. And I had a certain way where if you pop on music and I'm cleaning the home or I'm cooking, I'm going to dance whatever my body feels the music is doing, whether it's belly dance, Latin dance, hip hop, ballet, whatever it'll be. And somebody asked me to appear in their recital as a guest. They had a belly dance studio and they were having a recital and they wanted me to perform. And I said, I have absolutely nothing prepared. And they're like, oh, we don't care what you do. Just come and do your thing. I was like, you're serious? Because I'll take you up on that. I'll do my thing. I'll do my thing. And they were like, yeah. So I prepared a Latin belly dance fusion, and I didn't even prepare it. It was kind of a structured improv. Mm-hmm. And the costume was extremely basic. It was very basic. And when I was done, I figured they're either going to hate me or they're going to like it, and they actually said, that style is so unique. Can you teach that at our studio? Mm-hmm. And then everything just kind of snowballed from there.
Wow.
Yeah. I did not expect that what I'm doing today, I did not expect to be doing today.
And how cool. You love belly dance and you're fusing your own culture. How amazing is that?
I think it's really cool. I mean, I get very excited when I see other genres of dance fusing Latin dance. Mm-hmm. I see it all the time. And I'm like, how cool is that they have interest in my culture and my dance? How cool is that?
Love that.
Any genre.
I love that. But Latin dance, everybody loves it. Who doesn't love it? The music's great. Wow. Okay. Love it. So it snowballed, and yes. Now we've got Angel Bellydance. You are starting to think about you becoming a brand. Yeah. What? How did you start that?
I never thought of myself as a brand or branding.
Well, yes, you are, girl.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. It wasn't, till maybe around the pandemic or, that awkward year of the shutdown. I had a dancer friend reach out to me privately. And so that's another thing is during the shutdown, I had so much more time on my hands. I think a lot of us did. I had a lot of time on my hands. And this is when TikTok first came out and people were doing weird things on TikTok. And it was actually my oldest daughter who was a senior in high school at the time. I didn't know what TikTok was, but I saw a lot of ballet instructors on Facebook openly complaining about TikTok. I'm like, what is TikTok and why is it bad? So I asked my teenage daughter, hey, what's TikTok? And she went, Mom, you can have a TikTok.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, but what is it? So she opens up the app and she shows me, and I don't need to tell you what it's about. You know what it's about and how it works. And so I figured I would try some videos, and I was doing it the wrong way. I was uploading like performance videos, and that's not what they wanted at the time. I think it's different now. So I was like, okay, this isn't working. No one's seeing my stuff. This is a waste of time. So I recorded something in my PJs or house clothes, whatever you want to call it, like barely any makeup on, in my bathroom to some Shakira sound, but I was dancing like me. And it blew up. And I was like, oh, this is what people want. The raw Angel. Angel rolled out of bed. Angel, the way she is, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, this is cool because this is the world allowing me to be me. And so I would find inspirational sounds. And when I say inspirational, I mean to me. So it would be Latin music or reggaeton music. Cause I have a whole other serious like background and relationship with the rise of reggaeton in Puerto Rico when it was happening. And so I would find these sounds and I would dance to them. And some of them would be in costume, some of them wouldn't, but it would just be me. And then I had students who were my in-person students here in Orlando before the pandemic. Can you teach the reggaeton belly dance fusion? I said, yeah. So I started to teach online, but I was so scared of teaching online because I didn't know I didn't know how to work Zoom. I didn't know anything. I didn't know. So I started off with only the students that I knew. And it was a very small, like 7 people, and that's it. Mm-hmm. I did that for a session. And when that went well, I said, let 15 people in the class. And then I'll start another class. But actually, I got off topic. This was back during that time. I had a friend of mine reach out to me privately over Facebook. And she said, I see what you're doing. And I see that it's working and it's smart. And she used the word brand or branding. And it's the first time anybody had ever reached out to me regarding to me as a brand. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I thought to myself, well, that's not really what I was trying, but that's cool. Okay. And I never really sat down and said, how can I make a brand or brand myself? I think I just kind of go along with whatever's authentic at the moment.
Right. How interesting. And you weren't shy or timid to put out videos of yourself?
I don't think so. I think it was just kind of like, honestly, Ori, I think I had been in the business long enough where I was like, if my time is up, my time is up. If people don't like it, they don't like it, and that's fine. And, you know, I've had a good 3 decades of working professionally. And, I mean, the dance world gave me back much more than what I had hoped for. So I'm very grateful for that.
Wow. It's just like, so in a way, kind of like you were kind of ignorant about what this could be, right? Yes. Which was kind of great in a way.
Yes.
But we've got listeners here who are terrified, who know what it can be now by putting out video. I mean, would you think video is the best way to promote yourself and become a brand?
I think for me, and this may not work for other people, I feel that video is the best way for people to notice what I can offer. Right. I do share clips of my classroom with students with me because I like the world to see, hey, you can do this too. I have students that range from right now, I think all of my students are adults, but I've had teenagers to women in their 80s, and sometimes they feel like they can't keep up physically, but they do what they can and modify if needed. And then sometimes I will do videos of me by myself and maybe dancing to the highest level of intensity that I can for fun, or just to say, hey, this is where maybe my style can lead you someday. Sometimes I'll share videos of myself on a stage at a belly dance event. And that's great because you get to see that side of me. But then sometimes you'll see the fun clips of me jumping on a table at a Greek restaurant and just giving a fun shimmy and dancing with someone who's having a meal. So you see many different sides.
This is excellent. But you know what? It's so interesting, Angel. You are such a beautiful person. You are so pure. Because here's the thing. You could have easily said, I put out these videos because people want to see a teaser of what I do and what to expect in my classes. But no, you said, here's what you can do too.
Oh, absolutely.
No, but you're not coming even from a sales perspective.
Oh,
you're coming from a beautiful place. You can do this too. Like never did I hear teaser, $20 for the class, da, 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 you know what I mean?
Well, sometimes to be honest with you, sometimes I do those videos. Okay. I'll show a little clip of here's what we did last session. But yes, it is. So like, here's what to expect. And you can do it too. If you like a challenge, here's a challenge. Here are more everyday people movements. So I always tell my students, when you're choreographing, always throw in some movements where the non-dancer can feel it's relatable. They can see that and say, I can do that too.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because anybody can dance.
Angel, you don't know that you're doing this.
Okay.
But this is brilliant. You don't know that you're doing this. It's just, you know your identity. You know who you are. It comes out through your promotion, through your video, and that's why people flock to you.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. I'm glad that whatever it is I'm doing is working. I think it's working. The majority of my students are repeat students, and I think that's more important than getting new people through the door. Because if you have students who are returning, that says a lot. It's not that it's easy. It's not easy to get new people through the door, but I think it's easier to get someone to try something when it's not a long-term commitment. But I think it's harder, or there's much more to be said when someone is returning multiple times over and over again. That means what you're doing is working and that they're enjoying it.
So I want to go talk about retention because I've done podcasts about student retention. Mm-hmm. I say it's the cheapest way to get new students because your current students can talk to other people and you can get new people organically. Now, being that you are so great at retention, right? How are you scaling your business? How are you getting more growth with the people that you retain? Do you have some sort of referral plan?
My students do a really good job of talking about me. I keep a relationship with my students too. I think you hear a lot, and I do believe there's a line between student instructor, right? There's a line. But at the same time, they are human. They look up to you. And I have to remember how I looked up to my instructor when I was a child. And if there was any personal one-on-one, it meant so much to me because I wanted to be like her. I wanted a relationship with her. So I do all of my students have my personal phone number. They text me. If they're going through something, if they have an injury, if their cat went through, some sort of operation or something's going on, I think about them, and I do reach out, how are you? How's your cat? And so I do keep a relationship with them, but not to the point where we hang out and take vacations together or anything like that. It is business, but it's like I said, my business is personal at the same time.
So part of your retention and growth is really building a strong community.
I think so. And you know what's great is that, and it's not a strategy like, oh, I'm going to make friends with these people and keep them. It's not that at all. It's that I see them sometimes twice a week on Zoom. I see them. And so there is a relationship because my classes are live. I talk to them. Yeah. Sometimes I see their kids running around in the background and their little dogs trying to dance with them and whatnot. Some of my students have made friends with each other, even though they live, say, in different states, because I'll go to a belly dance event to teach at, and they're like, oh, well, I want to go. And then Susie May from California was always seeing, Tiffany from New Jersey on Zoom, and then we'll meet up, let's say, in Las Vegas for a workshop. And they're like, oh, you're the lady that has the purple wall behind you. And then they become friends. Yeah. So, some of my students actually become friends with each other. It's not like we don't have like a thread where we go back and forth and chit chat. It's nothing like that. But I think it just happens organically.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. And I just want to talk a little bit, another question about business. How are you getting new people through the door? Do you have it?
Okay. I wish that part was easier. Again, organic posting. I wish there was a trick. Back in the day, when I was trying to get more students, I would reach out to other dancers who already had huge following, and I'd ask them, hey, what's your secret? What's the trick? And they would tell me, just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. And I always wondered, is that true? Are they maybe, not sharing something? But it's true. It's just organic, reaching out to people, posting, showing up at events and networking with people in person. A lot of my newer students are students who I meet at festivals. Mm-hmm. So when I go teach at a festival, I will always offer a sign-up sheet for emails, so you can kind of know what's going on. And I'll have a lot of students who have in my workshops who've never taken with me before. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've known me, maybe they haven't, and they'll take a class. And if I'm lucky, they'll sign up for my email list. Or sometimes they just pop onto my website and grab a class. So I appreciate these festivals because to me, these festivals are an opportunity to get people to sample my quote unquote product. If we're talking business, right? Yeah. My classes are not long-term commitment. It's not like a gym membership where you must sign up for a year and you have to give me your credit card info. Hey, my classes are 4 sessions. 4 sessions. And if you like it, then you come back. If you don't like it, then just shut up and go away. No, I'm kidding. If you don't like it, you don't have to come back.
So it seems like it's consistency. You've been consistent. That's what you showed up.
For everything in life, I think consistency is key. Don't fix what is not broken. Yeah. If something is working, just keep at it. Be consistent.
Great. Great. So here on the Dance Fit Biz Builders podcast, I talk about really being diverse with your revenue streams. So you do Zoom classes, you go and teach at conventions or go and be a participant at a convention. What else? What other types of revenue streams do you have?
Local performances,
Got it.
restaurants, weddings, birthday parties, that sort of thing.
Okay. And you
That's
could,
actually the easiest money.
oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's the easiest money because every time, so for example, if I dance at your wedding this Saturday and I dance at, somebody else's wedding the following Saturday, I could just repeat the same show. No one would ever know.
Of course.
Same show, same costume, same music. No one would ever know. And it's private events. You always charge more for private events than you do for public events such as restaurants. So that's actually, for me, it's the easiest money.
Gotcha. So did you register your brand as a business locally?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I am registered with the state of Florida. Like I said, everything kind of happened organically. So when this started to grow, I decided, okay, maybe I should get a website. And I had someone help me with that. But I'm kind of like a tax nerd and do everything. I follow the rules like a nerd. I hate breaking rules. I don't like rule. I like to lay my head on my pillow at night peacefully, knowing that I've done everything properly. So I reached out to a CPA, and he's wonderful, and he helped me get everything set up. And I did reach out to the other side of things, reaching out to my local county and lawyers and whatnot, and made sure I had everything ironed out so that I would be doing everything properly.
So then your suggestion to someone who's new, who wants to start their brand, is the first thing they should do is go to a CPA and ask them those questions?
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to guide someone in the legal aspect of dance, but if someone came to me right now and they wanted to do what I'm doing, I would say, well, if you are using a fictitious name, immediately get your DBA or your LLC. That's number one. And I would just get a CPA to do it and make sure it's done properly.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Angel, looking back now, would you have done anything differently in building your brand?
One thing if I knew what I knew today, I would not have been so shy to start what I did sooner.
Okay.
When I was younger. Like I said, I was afraid to do the fusions. The fusion is what kind of put me on the map.
Yeah.
Okay, for the belly dance world, the belly dance community. Before I did the fusion publicly, I was so afraid that people wouldn't like it. I was afraid that people would be upset. And so if I would have known that people would be accepting of it as they are, I probably just would have done it sooner.
Yeah. But you don't know when you're younger and but you're here. You don't feel like you've wasted time, right? In those younger years.
No, because all of that, everything I went through back then, all of the styles I've done, the performing I did, the training that I've had, all of that are tools for my dance life today.
Yeah. And we're like about the same age-ish. I mean, we are dancing more and teaching more than we ever did. I think, for me, I'll speak for myself. Sorry.
I think I'm stronger now than I was in my 20s as a dancer.
Right?
Even stronger than my 30s.
How amazing is that?
And for sure in my 30s, because I had my second child when I was in my 30s. And I remember being so weak after the pregnancy. And it took me a while. I didn't think I would be able to get back to where I was in strength and flexibility.
Right.
But it's amazing what the human body can do if you put your mind to it.
And I'm so grateful to be dancing now in this era, this time.
Some of my best work and more money even being made in my 40s.
Amazing. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. So, Angel, what advice would you give someone who's looking to grow their classes, grow their brand, their program? What advice would you give them? And if they're on the fence about things, what would you say?
Well, if it's working, consistency, which we covered that earlier. If it's working, but very slowly, be patient. If it's not working, you don't keep doing the same things over and over again. You can't repeat the same things and expect a better outcome.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So, Angel, what's next for you? Any exciting projects?
Well, I'm starting to step into that time where I may not be hired, in a few years for weddings and hookah lounges and that sort of thing. So I would love to pass on my knowledge to the up and coming dancers and hope. So I do have a couple of mentees here in Orlando and they're doing great. They're doing great. And it's just, thank goodness that they trust me, because, if it wasn't for that, they would still kind of be stuck in where they were before they came to me for help.
Angel, this was amazing. Thank you so much for letting the Dance Fit Biz Builders audience get to know you a little bit more. And thank you so much for educating us about your business.
Thank you.
Of course. And I would love for you to take us out with our signature outro.
Until next episode, go and kick ass.
Woohoo! Thank you, Angel.
Thank you so much.